Okay, the time is now 6:30 and the August 15th meeting of the Development and Review Board for the City of Winooski is called to order. The DRB is a quasi-judicial volunteer resident board that upholds standards and procedures as defined in the Winooski zoning ordinance. We review and make decisions on subdivisions, site plans, conditional use, variances, and appeals of the zoning administrator's determinations. The DRB has authority through Vermont state statute and ensures due process, protects the rights of applicants and rights of the public to participate in proposals for land development within the city of Winooski. Appeals of decisions made by the DRB are heard by the Vermont Superior Court Environmental Division and the Vermont Supreme Court. Matt Basowitz is our board chair. He cannot be here tonight. My name is Harlan Miller, and I am the vice chair. Lise Goodrich is our board secretary. Winooski DRB members also consist of Aaron Goyette, who just walked in, David Weisberg, excuse me. Our alternates are Emily and Jordan. Jordan's online with us this evening. So, to get going, we want to make sure everybody signed in the audience. Yes. Are there any changes to the agenda? No. Is there any public comment? Public comments reserved for comments and questions not on the agenda tonight. Okay. Our first substantive matter will be to approve the previous meeting minutes. Are there any additions or edits to be made to the previous meeting minutes? Seeing and hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
So motioned.
Looking for a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously.
I don't think I was at the last
Oh,
meeting.
sorry. Okay,
Oh,
one abstention. Okay, that brings us to the public hearing for tonight. A site plan review for 111 East Allen Street. Anything from the zoning administrator to set us up for some testimony?
Sure. I should have studied up what Eric did at this moment because I'm not sure what Eric did, but he provided a brief overview of the project, I guess. So,
Yeah, exactly.
and some
Yeah.
notes. So the applicant's proposing a residential development on 111 East Allen Street. This property is located on the corner of East Street and East Allen. The applicant's proposing a 22-unit multi-residential development, multi-residential use. Property is located in the C1, the Central Business District. Based on the zoning regulations, it's only subject to site plan review. This project was reviewed by myself, our Public Works Director, and our Fire Marshal. We've provided notes to the applicant accordingly, and other than their notes, there aren't any major concerns that we identified. Just one minor suggestion from me was to consider additional landscaping and screening to improve the screening along the eastern boundary line, as this is something that is recommended per our regulations. So at this point, I'll turn it over to you for any questions about the application and anything else you have to offer.
Awesome. And we have the developer here this evening.
Great.
Welcome.
Should I come on up?
Please.
All right, great.
Oh, we should swear you in. Do you swear to affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the truth under pains and penalties of perjury?
I do, thanks. Rebby, will you be able to have some of the application material up on the screen, or?
Yep.
If we can just leaf through that and give a quick overview of the project. So this is a site we've had for many, many years. It's been a challenging site to develop because it's so small. It did have a building on it before as well, and that was something we looked at, whether we would try to rehab the building, save the building, add on to the building, all of those things. long story short, we worked through the plan to redevelop the site, and we've looked at many different options for this property over the years. We're in a challenging development environment right now, so smaller units with a lot of great amenities, affordable units, units near services like bus stops and restaurants and things like that. Those are what is working right now. So that's kind of where this project sprouts from. So as Ravi mentioned, it's a 22-unit building, 6 one-bedroom apartments, 14 studios, and 2 two-bedroom apartments. Similar to other projects we've done, we love to add a lot of amenities. So this building is amenity rich. Every unit has its own washer dryer, dishwasher, full kitchen, all that stuff. High-end finishes like hard surface countertops and hard floorings, things like that. So there's a lot of great amenities that are included in the building, even though a lot of the units are much smaller. The other thing we looked at with this site, again, it's a very small site. It's about 60 feet by 100 feet roughly, a little bigger than that. The other thing we looked at is what can we do to activate the street? We've always loved adding, some commercial, retail, some service-oriented things to projects over the years when it makes sense. Having parking requirements often makes that difficult, but on this site, we definitely wanted to have some good street kind of frontage amenity or more activated use, more public-related use. So what we've decided to do, which is unique to our buildings, and we're pretty excited about it, is to have some ground floor co-working space, lounge space, a couple of private offices, a large lobby where you could sit down and meet with someone or read a book or whatever, fitness center, package room, coffee bar, so a lot of cool things on the ground floor. And we think that'll work well with some of these smaller units. It'll allow people to again, hopefully have a little bit more affordability with their unit and then have a little more space when they want some. The building has 2 ground floor units, right behind that amenity space I just mentioned. Behind that, which is to the north, is some underground parking, under building parking. And then basically above that, we have, fairly straightforward floor plans. So there's 2 more floors above that. So we have 10 units per floor. And then one last kind of cool feature architecturally is we wanted to do something a little bit more exciting than just kind of a square building here. So we added this loft space on the front. So the 2-bedroom units, facing south, I guess, right on East Allen Street, those units have a nice lofted space, which is pretty cool. So the building actually kind of goes up to 4 stories on that side of the building. It's still technically 3, but there's like a lofted additional story there.
So the loft is like above the bedroom?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Very cool.
It'll be a really cool space. And again, they're still smaller units, but they've got everything you need, and we are able to hit an affordability level that we think will really make sense with this project.
Are any of the units reserved for low income or anything like that?
So right now, we've actually been working kind of behind the scenes with some grants and some different things. If we get those, we may be able to reduce the price structure a little bit further. Right now, naturally, we actually do hit quite a few of the 80% AMI units, which again, when we drive down the unit square footage, we're able to do that, and then we've offset that with the additional amenity space. So we think that's kind of an efficient way to do it. So we are, I think right now, it's nothing official, but we have, I think all of our studio units are 80% AMI affordable, which means they're in the $1,500 range.
Yeah.
So that's a number we don't see very often anymore on new construction. What else here? So I'm sure there'll be questions, but before I wrap up, I guess there's not really much to go over on the site plan. It's basically a full build out of the site, aside from a little bit of space around the exterior. We've already, as we always do, we've already done a lot of outreach with our neighbors. We usually come to these meetings, kind of having looked at, what the neighbors' needs might be. We're working with Burlington Housing Authority, who owns the building to the west, working with our shared line there, which is going great. We've got a relationship with them. Myers and Crete, who own the building just to the north, working with them. They're super supportive of the project. Beverage Warehouse, working with Jen and her team over there. They've had some concerns with, mainly with construction, so we've been working through that with that group. So we've already done some outreach, and I think for the most part, everyone's pretty excited about the project. Yeah, I could go on with lots of other stories on this site, because again, it's probably the third time we've designed something here, but I think I'll leave it there, and I'm certainly open to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board?
I have a few questions, and they're all site related. I'm concerned about the parking situation here, and I'll just go down my list. My reading of the regulations is that street parking isn't allowed for residential buildings, like to count that as part of the total. So that's one. I'm curious about the double loaded space, about how that'll be managed. And I'm wondering about it looks like the EV spaces, which were used to reduce some of the requirement, do those have two cords like the typical ones, so they serve the two spaces there in between, or is it a one?
Yeah, every single space has EV charging accessibility.
Okay.
Yeah, separate plugs, so they'll be double-headed chargers.
And then, so I guess then the third one is the reduction that's taken for the, forget what it's called, the transportation demand management thing. It seems like the regulations require you to provide one of these 4 or 5 options that I didn't see in that letter. It was like comp people 1 year of ride share, or I can't remember them all. And I don't know, Ravi, if you have the regs up, if you can pull that up.
Sure.
So it was in section like 412, I think.
Yep.
And I guess while we're waiting.
Yeah, the specific TDM options here are to provide funding for a transit shelter to be used by GMT, to offer transit passes at a discount, to establish a car share vehicle on site, and provide car share membership at a discount, maintain an active membership in a TMA, which is CATMA in Chittenden County, and or in buildings with non-residential uses, which isn't applicable for Nate's project, provide at least 1 shower and changing facilities for every 50 employees. So they did provide information in their application materials about TDM. They did fulfill the application requirements by showing the multimodal options in the vicinity, and outlined the trip reduction expected with the discounted bus passes that they're going to offer to future residents.
But doesn't this one require them to provide one of those options as well?
Yes. So the one option that is being proposed is the offering of transit passes at no cost for a minimum of a year and 50% cost for years.
Okay, I didn't see that on the list.
And that's in our TDM plan as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is very similar to a project we just finished in Burlington, has basically the same TDM structure. There's a few differences, but that's the primary incentive that we're using. So when we go to lease, we have a whole flyer that talks about how you can purchase a pass and then get it reimbursed and everything, which works pretty well. So looping back to a couple of your other questions, I mean, we're into quite a few of these projects now where we're getting pretty comfortable with less parking. And on a site like this, it's critical to be able to, maximize as many units as possible. Obviously, we could have gone, even higher with the building if there was, if we could have probably gotten a little bit more reduction of parking, because it's a 60-foot height here and we're only 40-something feet. But so the parking piece is something we've gotten really comfortable with. We have, in fact, there's some of our buildings now, we actually have spaces still available to lease because folks have either found other ways to take care of their transit needs or found another parking spot somewhere, they've found other ways to do things. So and again, we're the operator, so when we have a tenant that's upset, it hits us directly. So we would not want to put together a project where we're gonna upset the neighbors, have tenants upset, things like that. So we have a comfort level with this amount of parking. It's definitely, less than, many other projects in Winooski, but very much in line with kind of the way planning and everything is shifting in
I've definitely heard you talk about this before. Are these the new parking requirements? Are those gone into effect?
Yeah, I think these were part of the Act 47 changes that included a number of parking reductions. So I think the TDM list has been there before, but the EV part is relatively new.
Yep.
And that was part of the Act 47 changes that went into effect earlier this month.
Okay. Can you go down to the next paragraph?
You're looking for location or for public parking?
Public parking.
Yeah, so this is the section that I think you were concerned about, David, with the on-street spaces. And so projects can use on-street parking as long as that on-street parking space is located within 100 feet of the development site. So in this case, that D subsection 1 would be.
So I think what I was reading is at the beginning of the section where it says, right there, required minimum parking for residential uses must be accommodated on-site, or as outlined in that section above, which is guaranteed off-site parking somewhere else. So
Yes.
street parking doesn't meet that requirement for this residential building.
Street parking does, so that would be on-street parking.
Yeah, and I think one clarification is this is not existing.
How does it meet this, how does it meet this requirement? Up there, that's.
Residents, employees, on-site or off-site. Off-site. So, yeah, so off-site,
That's like a garage or a parking lot where you have an agreement for to hold a space, I believe.
Well, we do have to get approval from DPW, which, we had a whole process prior to submission with Revy where they looked at those two spaces and we shifted the curb and we made sure everybody was happy because they're brand new spaces. I just want to clarify, these are not utilizing existing spaces. So we are bringing those spaces on additional capacity to the city.
And those spaces would have a for resident parking only type of thing, or no?
Well, actually, it's really up to the city. So we build them and we actually say, it's really up to the city as to if they want, if we're going to use them or their 15-minute spaces or whatever they might be.
But that paragraph says it shall submit written proof of contractual arrangements with the owner of the lot, which guarantees the continuous use of the space for the building. These are public spaces.
So this section is different. So subsection 3 is about off-site parking on private properties.
Right, and 4 doesn't
And
apply
4
to
is
residential.
4 does. So required minimum parking for residential uses must be accommodated on-site or as outlined in 4.12 by D3.
And that's the one above.
That's this.
Is it? No.
412
No, it's the one above.
D3. No, this is 3.
Right, it says D3, 412 D3.
So, oh, okay.
That's 412 D4.
Okay.
I think the intent is that residential has to provide guaranteed parking. I don't want to belabor it now, but it's just something that stood out to me. And then, while I have the 4, the other 2 site questions were where you foresee trash and recycling storage being or pickup out on the street.
Yeah, so we have, again, most of our buildings now are all inside the building and then they get rolled out. So I believe it's near, let me see here. Which one do we have? I think they'll just be totes, so they actually won't take up much room. But it's near the mechanical room. Yeah, so it's right along the mechanical room right there. There'll be some totes stored, kind of in the, basically the space between the compact space and the handicap parking space. There's kind of like a little dead space there. We'll likely have, 3 totes or 3 or 4 totes there.
Where's the compact space on this one?
It's like.
Is there actually a door So it's like,
Is that?
it's like here, so there's gonna be a car parked right beside the entrance. Will there be a garage door there, or is that just an opening?
Yep, there is. Yep, this is an enclosed, secure garage for a couple reasons, but one of them is for our bike parking requirements, and also just for security reasons. But so there's an overhead door where that entrance is off the street.
That's a space.
I think that's a space, so it's clearer here. So just on the architectural plan, just to the right of the garage door is a parking space? That's the compact space you were
Yep.
talking about?
We're going to
Is it-
also
is it the
have
full- is-
vehicle size limitations, which,
is that-
you know, we've studied a lot of our other buildings, and most people have small cars. In fact, most people even have cars that could be considered compact. So on this building, we actually are going to have requirements that your car not be, you know, any too large, just to make sure everybody can fit in here. But, you know, again, that's not been an issue on past projects. An example of a project we just did in Burlington is our City West project by August 1st Bakery. We have, I think it's like maybe 0.6 or 0.7 spaces per unit, something like that. So we've gotten pretty comfortable lowering that. And, you know, it may lease up a little bit slower because you're looking for folks that are okay with a little bit less parking, but for a site like this, it makes sense to us. And again, we have a lot of bike facilities, we have a lot of accessibility to the public transport, so we think it'll work. We also have another parking garage coming online, literally a stone's throw from this. So we don't have any formal agreements, but we're pretty sure that either just through the public parking that's available to everyone, or maybe even future, you know, formal written agreements, we'll be able to talk to the city about more parking. So there should be some flexibility with that.
And do you lease the spaces separate from the
We do,
apartments?
yep.
Right. So you know exactly like how many you're gonna have and how much capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
You have.
And we've gotten pretty good at it. We've learned along the way. Obviously, every building we've done, we've kind of learned a little bit what's working, what's not. But we have passes. We do weekly check-ins on. And again, it's, you know, once in a while you'll have somebody parking there that they shouldn't be, or, you know, different kinds of infractions. But overall, it's really not been a burden on our team. So it's worked well. And we have people that say, hey, I want to be on the wait list. When you have a space available, but they're still willing to rent. They're willing to wait to either get their car, or they rent a space from somebody else. You know, there are other spaces around that you can rent, so there's those options too.
Has parking been part of your conversation with the Winooski beverage folks?
Long-term parking?
Oh, I know that there's lots over there and plenty of spaces that
Yeah.
seem kind of up for grabs.
True. We have a really good relationship with them. And they just really don't want to impact their business. I think down the road there may be a way to have some shared parking, because aside from your late night, you know, Thursday, Fridays, like residential can work pretty well with certain types of retail. So, you know, we hope that we could, but right now I think their focus is like, let's get this thing built, let's see how that goes, and then maybe we'll talk in the future. Also, Jeff Myers in the back, who we've talked to about this project several times, he's renting us spaces for construction. Again, I don't have a formal agreement. I think many of those spaces will be available. They're not fully parked out at that building. They have, I don't know the exact number, but it sounded like a handful, maybe 4 or 5 spaces that are available long-term. There's a lot of folks that live in that building that use the bus. So we feel like we have some good options. I mean, again, we know that we don't have as many parking spaces as maybe what historically has been seen in Winooski projects, but with the location and all those things about, you know, the different services, public transit, we feel comfortable with this approach.
I've got a question. I feel like I should know the code a little bit better. I'm thinking back to other projects we've reviewed, and wasn't there something about not being able to use like the ground floor of the building for parking? Is there something in the code about that? We've denied projects because of that.
I think it was when it was on the street, right? When it was street facing ground level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the form-based code, there's a parking setback line.
Maybe that's what it was. It was
I
like the
don't
Mansion
recall
Street
anything in
project
this
that makes-
district about that.
Yeah.
It was,
Um,
No,
couldn't be above the ground,
Couldn't be
but
above.
screened as a garage.
Yeah, in this case, parking has to be located behind the building, and it meets that requirement by having that front facade of the building along the street, so that way the street is activated and the parking is primarily located behind the building. That's the main concern in this location.
Have you thought about snow management in those spaces outside of the footprint?
Yeah, I mean, again, a lot like our other buildings, it's definitely more work. We have an on-site team that does Winooski for us, and sometimes if we have a lot of snow, we actually have to haul it off-site. Here, at least, 2/3 of the parking area is covered, so it'll help us some there. But it's always a lot of work when we get a big snowstorm.
Yeah. It's gonna be tough with cars there
Oh, right,
with
yeah.
3 feet of snow on them.
Were there any like historical concerns with the previous building?
So the previous building was on the state register. It's a building that, we had looked at so many ways of rehabbing over the years. We met with the state's historic preservation department. We did a bunch of studies, and we kind of talked to them about the building and said, what do you think? With the condition of the building, they were supportive of us. We wouldn't have been allowed to demolish the building without a letter of support.
Yeah.
So we have an MOA with historic preservation. There were a few things that we have to do, mainly just reuse of some material, which we did. I don't know if anyone kind of watched it being taken down, but we actually took most of it down by hand. And we actually recycled all of the wood beams that were in the building, and other things too, but that was the primary thing we recycled, which is pretty cool. And then we donated a bunch of those to the folks down here at the Bryan Center, who are building a pavilion out of those beams. If you've heard about the pavilion coming to, I think it's Landry Park, that's out of these beams.
Cool.
Which is cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
And I'm a little bit of a nerd when it comes to this stuff, but it's really, really cool. So the beams are, we've counted the rings on some of them. They're so old that, if you take the age of the building was 1840, and you subtract the rings, these trees were like in the 1600s that they sprouted out of the ground. So
Wow.
they would have been considered like first growth trees. These would have been in the dense forest when they ripped all the trees down in the area. So pretty neat that they're all getting reused.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But yeah, so that's kind of the history there. And then we try really hard to take good care of our tenants. So we took the building down when we had a natural vacancy. That's why we took it down as we did, because it's really hard actually when you're doing a development project, it's really hard to time, tenants moving out of the building and in that whole process. So we waited until tenants moved out, and then we just said, okay, vacant building. So we went ahead and did it then.
So outside of construction concerns that the bevy might have had, that it sounds like you're in talks with them or have resolved, was there any other comments from neighbors or any other concerns?
No other comments from the other two neighbors. Again, we'll have an open dialogue with Jen. We've told her, with Beverage Warehouse, we've let them know that we'll have somebody on site full time managing construction traffic and those sorts of things. Again, we just came off a project right in downtown Burlington, so we're kind of used to it. No other concerns from other neighbors. We're working through with Burlington Housing what they want to see. I know there was mention of screening or whatnot. They may not want it. So what we're looking at is, because the property line is so close to the building, we may just leave it open so that they have plenty of light, and so we're letting them kind of drive that discussion.
Yep.
Right now, I think we show a fence. Is that right, Revy? I'm not sure if we.
Not on that,
Okay, yeah, you're right.
western boundary.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. So we don't show the fence now, but that's a fence that we would be willing to put up if they would like to see that. We'd be happy to do plantings, but really, what they don't want to, they don't really want a lot of stuff right in that little alleyway. So I think we'll probably just end up with a little river stone open area. But that's an ongoing discussion with BHA.
So Harlan, Jen Sweetek has a question from the public, so.
Okay. Are there any more questions from the board before we open it for public questions? Let's not keep Jen waiting.
Yeah.
Hey Jen, welcome. Can we hear her? I can't hear her.
Yeah, I gave her permission to talk, so I don't know.
Hold on 1 second, Jen. Eek.
Trying to make the mic work.
I think I tested the Zoom audio and it should be coming through the speaker. Is it coming through like?
There, it's fine. Hey guys, can you hear me? Hello?
Hey.
There we are.
There you
Okay, my husband brought his computer in, and I'm getting double speak here, so let me shut my other computer off. Hold on. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm trying to stay separate from my husband. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Hey, so, first and foremost, Nate is always an absolute pleasure to deal with. He always contacts us as well as my parents who own the property ahead of any time of his projects, even if they generally don't do anything that makes us concerned. He just always wants to keep his neighbors involved, which we really, truly appreciate. And I think it is a rare thing to, purposely seek people out, even if they don't need to, just to make sure we're all comfortable and know what's going on with that. So I want to thank Nate for that. Can you still hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, great. So parking is obviously a major concern, and we talked to Nate considerably about, I think it was a week ago, about all the things we're worried about, like the road being shut down, our 18-wheeler trucks being impeded or anything else. So, we can't let Winooski go thirsty, for goodness sake. So he's addressed all of our concerns, saying that the road should only be affected, our drive in, probably for 4 days to 8 days. Was that correct, Nate?
Yeah, yep.
Okay, and that's fantastic. We're also hoping to help him out with some parking spots for some of his workers during that time, with them helping us with the snow removal where we can provide those parking spots, since winter obviously adds some trials there because our parking shrinks. From our standpoint on parking, our concern is we've become a spot where everyone going to Morning Light Bakery or CCV and all the events in Winooski, et cetera, drop their cars and leave. And a lot of our time is spent looking, unfortunately, through cameras and then putting tow notices on the cars that we see people just dropping and leaving. And it's a lot of our time. And, we pay a lot of taxes to have the luxury of that parking. So we just want to make sure that, we are not impacted more than we already are by it. I know that's impossible to completely control, but any suggestions anyone has to help us with that without coming across as basically jerks to people who don't want their car towed, because we don't want to tow either. But we're just hoping, and I think Nate was suggesting as well, good signage in his new building, telling people, hey, don't park over there, don't have your friends park over there. We need our parking. Besides our having almost 30 employees, and any given day we have 18 merchandisers, drivers, salesmen, the liquor control people coming in. We never know how much of our parking will be taken up. And then we also have to provide for the overflow for our tenants, like gyms, and the salon and the new business that's moving in. So we are concerned about parking. I think Nate's addressed with us as much as he possibly can. But if there's any kind of extra help you can give us in suggesting how we can control it better, that would be appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jen.
Any feedback or questions for Jen or for Nate?
Do you feel like there's any further explanation on Jen's concerns, or did we more or less cover those? I think we've spoken at length about all the things we're doing.
Yeah, it
that we will
sounds
be
like
doing.
sounds like she's really supportive. Some extra signage, administrative controls to try and let people know they cannot park over there. I mean, her concerns are shared by anyone who has a parking lot in an urban area where parking is at a demand, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, what else can we do as a board? Ideas, suggestions? Really, I mean,
I don't think I have anything, but it's good to hear that you have a working relationship and that those channels will stay open.
yeah. Any other questions from the board for Nate? Okay,
No?
seeing and hearing none, thank you very much. We appreciate
Can I
your
add one
time.
more
Yes,
comment?
please.
So, you know, it's very difficult to get these projects off the ground, and we're hoping to break ground this fall. Anything that, you know, you need from us to allow this to move forward quickly, you know, we're all ears. Just kind of throwing that out there. It's a very tough environment to build right now. So that'd be really helpful. If there's any challenges with this parking, and if we need to do anything, get any other agreements or any other, you know, anything else, you know, we're happy to look at that and try to get this across the finish line. So,
Awesome.
yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nate.
So, we do not have any other items on the agenda, do we? Let me just double check here. Nothing but a black screen.
Just city updates and other
We
business.
close the hearing.
Yes, should we close the hearing? I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
I so move.
I think we do city updates first,
Oh.
don't we?
Oh, I don't know.
No,
We always-
Am I
we
wrong?
always fumble through this
Sorry.
part.
No.
It says
Close the
close the
hearing.
public hearing,
Yes.
continue on with the rest of the agenda.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. A second motion to close the hearing.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Carries anonymously. Okay, the hearing is closed. Now, let's hear any exciting city updates Remy might have. You don't have to. You don't. If there are none, then there are none.
Well, I'm just curious what Eric provided as city updates for you.
It was like,
Legislation on, you know, previous rulings we made that ended up in the courts,
Oh,
or
okay.
projects that were like, if you knew, if like more applications coming in for the next month, or just things that were about to happen around the city.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, DRB wise, yeah, I don't have too much to update on that. Yeah, there's nothing in the courts right now, luckily. I'm very happy about that. Yeah, Planning Commission's still talking about a lot of exciting stuff, and it's great. I'm not sure if,
perfect.
cool,
Yeah.
awesome,
Great.
thank you.
Any other business? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sweet.
Okay.